Hello and welcome everyone to Hacking HR June series. This is Mine and I'm connecting from Istanbul, Turkey. Today we will be talking about how we can future-proof our employee experience and talk about more on the employer side and get some tips from the experts. But before doing so, let's see who we have today in the audience. Always Hacking HR webinars are together with people from all around the world. So today, let's see who is joining us as an audience. So if you can put it in the comments where you're joining from, whether it's the morning time or the evening time for you, because now is like late afternoon for me, but for some of you, I know that is the day has just started, or that you are convening the day and just like putting, okay, so morning from NYC, we have Gregory from New York. Who else do we have? North Carolina. Well, okay. So we have people joining from the US. Who else do we have? People joining from eastern side of this world. Let's see. Charlotte. Okay, again, mid-morning, United States. Yeah, we have people from the east side of the US and the west side of the US. Somalia, okay, Philippines. Good evening. Must be really late towards the end of your day. Illinois, okay, Georgia, Pakistan, beautiful. New York, Argentina, okay, great. Who else? Let me see. Okay, West Africa, Benin, amazing. Somalia, another one from Somalia, amazing. Okay, and today is really important that we will be talking about how to adapt to the evolving work expectations, because usually we talk about the workers and how to adapt, but today is going to be the employers that we will be talking about. So to do so, let's invite our panelists to the stage. Hello, hello, hello. Look at these smiling faces. Everyone's so enthusiastic and having this energy. Where are you joining from, everyone? Let's start with Sheila.
I am normally in Phoenix, but I am currently in Bogota.
Okay. How's the weather? It must be
compared to Phoenix, it's
cold?
heavenly. Everyone here thinks it's cold. I've been running around in a sleeveless dress and watching everyone wear parkas. But I love it.
Okay. Okay. You're still enjoying the nice weather. I was thinking maybe it's almost like a fall.
No, it's very high up in altitude, so it's pretty temperate, but okay. 60s during the day, so it's just beautiful for me.
Okay. And can you do a brief intro about yourself so we get to know you better?
Absolutely. My name is Sheila Kruger. I am currently consulting. I'm running my own company called the Benefits Bungalow. But my past has been in benefits and compensation, both areas of total rewards, and most recently as the head of global benefits at Zoom. And that was encompassing all the time of the pandemic. So I am tired.
And enjoying that time of being retired. Yep. Amazing. Thank you and welcome. Alisa, where you're joining from, and can you introduce yourself briefly?
I am delighted to do that. Thank you so much. I'm in Boston, so it is morning here. It is going to be a hot day, bizarrely, again. We are having this very heated June, so needless to say, I'm a little jealous of Sheila's 60 degrees. My work is around the science of confidence, and I lead the American Confidence Institute. I also lead the ERG Leadership Alliance, and ERG, for those of you who are not familiar with that acronym, is Employee Resource Groups, and they are really at the heart of employee engagement. So I'm excited to talk about both of those things today.
Amazing. It's going to be really great to bring that angle to our audiences, the giving that importance, because it has been a trending topic lately. So I would really be interested to hear more about it. Tracy.
Yes, hello. Thank you for having me. Great to be here. I'm calling in from Westchester County, New York, which is north of Manhattan, about an hour north in a town called Katona. So we're also in the midst of the heat wave. I am thrilled to be here. I have a 32-year career in HR across multiple industries. I've worked as a head of talent, chief talent officer, chief people officer. And after 32 years of being an HR practitioner inside organizations, I recently made the transition to consulting and joined an amazing organization that I had been a client of for decades as a senior culture strategist. And we primarily focus on culture and helping leaders and employees and managers lead culture journeys and evolve their cultures into organizations that are high performing and high engaging.
Amazing. I can't wait to hear more about how you do it so that we can give those tips to our audience. Jason.
Morning, everyone. Jason Rosoli. I normally are calling from New Jersey. Today, I'm on site at one of my clients in Southern California, Hollywood, as you can see, with Disneyland behind me. But spent the better part of 25 years in corporate HR and labor relations with Fortune 500 companies. Most recently have ventured out on my own, starting my own company, Grassroots Talent Solutions, that does headhunting and talent solutions, and then also do consulting with labor relations for organizations across the United States when they have union involvement. So that's what I've been doing as of recently, but wonderful day. Fortunately, Southern California is cooler than New Jersey today. So sorry, guys on the East Coast.
Wow, that's surprising. I wasn't expecting that. And it's really getting us all those even smiley faces seeing Peter Pan. And what was the name of the car? And Mickey, of course.
There's Mickey.
Yeah. Lightning McQueen. Okay. I was blanking on it. Having Lightning McQueen just as the background is amazing. Anna.
Good morning from me as well. I'm seated in California, in the Silicon Valley, in San Jose. Well, we do have some kind of a little bit more warm weather with some 80 plus today. But my work is in San Francisco, which we don't get more than 65 any day. I mean, whatever happens, no more than 65. So it's chilly, and I need really a jacket on for sure. So my experience comes from having a seat at headquarters level at organizational development and design. The last years, I do a lot of consulting on that area. And what I try to is help organizations increase their organizational effectiveness, either by changing their operating model, their structures, their processes. And that is so much important for facilitating clients, for everyone involved within the organization. Let me say that today it's 7 a.m. in the morning, and I'm so glad that we have people joining us from late in the evening for their time. Thank you very much for doing that.
Thank you for coming. So it's really great that we have people all around the world, as you said, and just like for some of us it's early in the morning, for some of us it's in the evening, but it's really beautiful how we also embrace that diversity within Hacking HR community. Okay, so let's start the conversation with how things have changed, because now we are talking about having 6 different generations in the workforce, and we are seeing different expectations of this workforce, and everything has been changing since the pandemic. How would you just, thinking about the things that has been happening since the pandemic, how would you see that trend going in the next 5 years? Do you see that as stabilizing, or do you also expect that to be like this like ever changing in the near future as well? Let's start with Alyssa.
That's a big question, then. And do I see it changing? I think we've gotten really, I don't want to say comfortable. I think we've gotten, we are used to now remote work. We're used to online work. We're used to things that unfortunately are contributing to this pandemic now of loneliness. And I think that that is really sad. I think, unfortunately, all the correlations to mental health are not being attended to. So I do hope it will change. I think that the pandemic gave us a sense that, we can survive without other people, but I don't think that's true. And unfortunately, in the workforce, we're seeing the impact of that in clearly in disengagement. We're seeing it in quiet quitting and all those other phrases that the HR community kind of gets a little bit uncomfortable even talking about, because there is not a really great solution. I think the great solution is finding ways to engage people, to bring them together. And, of course, employee groups, that's probably why, you've been seeing an uptick, because it's a very low cost, very easy and pervasive way. We're seeing 42 to 50 million people worldwide now involved in employee groups. So I think that's just a symptom of what has happened.
So, and you underlined a very important fact about the remote work. So with the pandemic, it was happening, but with the pandemic, that it got accelerated. So Sheila, how do you see the impact of that remote working, or the way that we are impacting the expectations of the workforce?
Yeah, I feel like we've given everybody a little taste of flexibility, and now we really need to kind of follow that up as employers to make sure that we're providing the best experience for them. And I definitely agree with Alyssa on the mental health front. I'm the same way. I love being alone, but boy, when I want somebody right now to hang out with and talk to, and that's harder and harder to do as we work remotely. So I do think that paying attention to what our workers are talking about, making sure we're continuing on with those engagement surveys and following up and acting on results. Actually, talking to people. I'm always surprised at how little that happens, especially from the C-suite down. I think managers probably about 50-50 do a pretty good job of talking to people to find out how are they really doing. But I think from the C-suite perspective, they rely a lot on, the one-offs, and that is how they view the whole company, because somebody has either complained or said something's really great, and then they decide that's how everybody feels. And we all know that that's not true. So I think it's just increasingly important to keep your finger on the pulse of the employees and make sure that you're providing the best possible experience with, everything from the HR canon that you've got.
This is really important what you say, because about the leadership and how leadership has to just listen, because we would think that this is really the fundamentals, and just think that would be happening in the company. But when we look at the practice, how it's happening, it's not really happening. Anna, did you want to add something to that?
Yes, I like very much the fact that Sheila and Lisa has emphasized the experience, and that experience starts also on how a city is being, let's say, structured, and also the whole commuting thing. In my world here in California, and especially Northern California, the problem is rather huge regarding the commuting part. People have to commute long distances without the transportation, the mass transportation, in order to reach their office. And that flexibility that we have given a taste of, as Sheila mentioned, has given them the ability really to buy houses very far from the offices. And that makes it really tough to get them back to the office. Right now, 50% of the offices in San Francisco are empty. Still empty, and that is a problem that affects not only the work environment and the culture, but also the local economy. having deserted cities is not something that benefits the economy as well. And that affects the overall experience that someone has living in that city, residing in a place that is deserted. So I would like to say that the overall experience comes not only from the work and the office and the organization, but also the overall society and how it's structured. The solution is something in between.
True. Yeah. So, like, keeping that balance. And Brittany from the audience, she also commented remote work is like technology. It's great when it's great and not so great when it isn't. I often miss being around others, and that's where the mental health aspect comes in. As you said, I mean, there has to be like a healthy balance between that, being isolated and giving that social, interaction to the employees, providing that space for employees versus keeping them, like making them commute every day and keeping them in the office just for having Zoom calls. And Tracy, on that side, I would just like to address how you were doing, because you have C-level experience with companies. How were you managing it during the pandemic? How do you see companies managing this balance?
Yes, I think there's a big challenge there because not only as a professional in HR, I'm also a parent of young adults who have entered the workforce. And I think that there is this challenge and this crossroads that we find ourselves at, where the younger generation coming into the workforce want to be in the office. They want the social interaction and the engagement. And I think a lot of that is related to what's already been shared and discussed by many on the panel. It's the loneliness, the lack of engagement, the challenges during COVID. Many of them were in college or in high school during COVID and were forced to either leave campus and go home or school from home, and they missed out on a lot of social interaction and engagement with their peers. Many missed out on graduations and things like that. They're entering the workforce and they're craving social interaction. They're also looking to the other generations in the workforce to help teach them how to do their jobs. And how are they going to learn if they're not able to engage and observe and partner with others? So I am a huge proponent of flexibility. I actually am in a remote role right now where I work full-time from home, and I travel as needed to client sites. So I'm not advocating that everyone should return to the office. I believe that we need to be extremely flexible. But we do have this challenge, and we have different generations with different needs and different expectations in the workforce, and we have to find the right balance. And we need to help managers learn how to manage teams in a hybrid environment. Some are great at it, some are not so good at it, and they need some support. And we need to help employees of all generations really understand what collaboration and productivity and engagement looks like in a hybrid work environment. There's multiple tools and technology that can assist with that, but at the end of the day, it comes down to human interaction and humanity. And I think there needs to be a focus on how to build up those skills again and focus in on human skills.
That's so important. That's human side, because like with technology, yes, we can enable things, but it's up to our human skills, and it's really important to put those skills into place where we are just like retaining the employees as well. And on that retention side, I would like to ask Jason, like, how does this impact the retention in the companies, the expectations being aligned with the strategy of the company?
Well, for up until my most recent roles, I spent like 11 years at Sears. And for those that are in the US, obviously everyone here has probably heard of the company Sears and the struggles that they had with retention and retaining employees, keeping them engaged. So I'm right up your alley on this topic, having worked that. But one of the things that kept me at Sears for so long is I was a remote worker for 10 plus years prior to the pandemic. And I would travel, obviously, but I was remote, and that was one of the benefits that I saw and what kept me there as an employer. And despite the challenges that they had, so I do think I agree wholeheartedly with my panelist peers here regarding having flexibility and agility for when it comes to understanding employees' needs. I always look at life as chapters, right? One chapter closes, another one opens. So like Tracy mentioned, is those that are entering the workforce, having social interactions is very important as that in the chapter of their life. However, when they move to the chapter of having newborns and children, well, maybe they need the flexibility of being able to work from home more. So that, each chapter, the company has to be flexible and agile to those employee needs if they wish to retain them over the long term through the lifespan of employment. However, there's always a challenge that I would say is, what are employees' expectations of working for that employer long term versus the immediacy of wanting short-term rewards and career growth. So I think the newer generations entering the workforce aren't looking necessarily so much for that long-term employment. They might say it, but they want the immediacy of career progression, wage improvements because of the pressures of inflation and compensation and housing costs, like Anna mentioned. So there's a lot of conflicting priorities they have in life. But the biggest thing is for employers to be able to be agile to the employees' needs. Recognizing those that come into the office, setting up a fun work environment that's engaging, that's collaborative, while providing some sort of autonomy to employees, while again being flexible to those needs that are at home. Realizing that not every job can be performed at home. I'm at an employer now where supporting a lot of employers where there is forced, they have to be on site. Healthcare obviously has to be on site. Manufacturing has to be on site. So, you have to understand those work environments, as not everybody has the ability to work from a flexible work environment from home.
That's very true. And that takes me to the question, because like everyone's now mentioning being flexible, understanding the needs of different employee groups. So Alyssa, I would like to ask you how we can use the ERGs to address these needs, different needs of different groups, and how we can leverage the existence of ERGs to make the employees happier in these work environment where it is really changing based on the needs, or like based on the life cycles of every employee.
Yeah, very well put. So typically, excuse me, ERGs often get associated with lines of diversity, under-supported populations and so forth. And I really want people to think about ERGs, or whatever you call them in your organizations, BRGs, ARGs, IRGs, there's about 30 or 40 names we've identified. I want you to think about them as ways to bring together people of common interest. And what I mean by interest is, yes, it could be the Black, Hispanic, women's groups for sure, but it also could be the Linen Arts Group. We have an example. We have many examples, but one of the examples during COVID of a group that's been around for a really long time at a very prestigious university brought together these people online so they could do some arts together and share in the experience. And there's some argument, well, is that really an ERG? And you know what? I had the same argument with the city of Boston one time about, they have a category like Toastmasters, and they're saying it's professional development, it's common interest, they're coming together, they're sharing, they're learning. And so I do believe that the future of these groups is not only to bring together people with different interests and commonalities demographically and so forth, but provide that sense of community that we're so craving. I'm sure I'm not the only one on today's webinar that can say, like, do we even know our neighbors anymore? Right? As a society, it's not just the workplace, but as a society, we get in our cars or on the subway with our pods in our ears, and we go and we do our business. And sometimes we don't even know the person who's sitting in the next cubicle, right? So I think what these employee groups really are filling this incredibly important void is giving people an opportunity to make friends. We know making friends at work is a key to keeping people engaged and retained. But I also think it's a way for people to have that balance. And yeah, it's still work related in the sense that they're people you work with. It may be a professional development opportunity in that sense, but they're getting the opportunity to do things that aren't necessarily in their day or higher job. So it feels like a little bit more balance. And those groups do that. There are challenges. I'm not going to hide it from anyone. We support 25,000 organizations, and some companies doing them really well and some are struggling. So these are not something that I would say just, get into willy-nilly, but at the same time, the impact, the positive impact on everything from productivity to profitability, employee health, well-being, all those things, there's no doubt that these groups make that happen.
It's really great. And for people who are not using the employee resource groups, or however you would call it in a specific company, I think it is time that they use these groups so that they can hear and see the expectations of the employees even better. And Sheila, coming to you, how can we, okay, so we're listening, we're understanding the needs, but how can we translate these into benefits? Or like, would you call it like a benefit, or what would be regarded as a benefit?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I mean, if you look as a benefits professional out at the market and the things that you can bring into your company, there are just thousands, literally thousands of point solutions to bring in. And so, with me saying flexibility is the key, obviously you're not going to be able to bring in 1,000 point solutions that are going to help everybody that you've got. And when you really look at those point solutions, many of them are incredible solutions and very helpful to the people that they affect. But you'll see that that may only be 2 to 3% of your population. And so depending on how you're contracting for those services, you could be paying a lot of money to help 2 to 3% of your people. And so I've really been a huge proponent for lifestyle spending accounts that have come out recently. And then there's a company that's started partnering with a lot of those point solutions so that that lifestyle account is not just money for groceries or utility bills or childcare. It is providing access paid by the employer for these solutions. So I can pick as an employee, maybe I've got heart problems, so I want to go find an add-on to my medical plan that's going to let me do that and take care of that particular issue. So rather than spend a lot of times we called it Sophie's choice, like, oh, do I want a cardiac solution or do I want a diabetic solution? And maybe there's a little crossover there, but if I pick one, then I'm leaving out the other group, right? And so this kind of format for this vendor gives you the option of letting everybody pick what do they want to enhance their medical care. And I just think those kinds of that kind of thinking and that kind of flexibility is something that is going to make a big difference. And from firsthand experience, we did a cohort survey at Zoom in 2022, and the numbers were great. The comments are always, even better. And my favorite comment was, I love that we have fertility planning for our employees, but I've already had my kids. What do you have for me? And that is really the question that we need to keep answering. Are we really fulfilling the benefit needs of everybody at every age group, of every demographic, every health issue? Is there a way that we can do that? So I think that's super important.
Okay, and so Tracy, how do we make that happen, like in big organizations?
Well, I think employee listening is incredibly important. I think having an employee listening strategy and really understanding the needs of your employees, because to Sheila's point, you can't bring in 1,000 different benefits. Organizations can't afford to do that. It doesn't scale, it doesn't make sense. So in order to really understand which benefits will have the greatest impact and the largest return on your investment, you really need to understand what the themes are and how different demographics of your organization might need different things at different times. So having a very flexible benefit strategy where you're not necessarily locking yourself in to a 10-year contract with a particular solution provider, but you have many, many more opportunities to provide flexible solutions that can change and evolve as your workforce changes and evolves. And so having a pulse on employee needs and understanding what they're looking for by using pulse surveys, other kinds of tools that you're able to collect data and insights from your employees, so you can really target benefits and really ensure that what you are implementing is really relevant in the moment and then can evolve and change over time.
This is really important because like when companies are strategy or like, implementing something, they just like, think that this is going to work and do the magic and everything is going to be just fine. But just like testing it, seeing it and evolving it and pivoting it is really important because like the needs are changing, times are changing, everything is changing. So it doesn't mean that when you're just like implementing something that is going to work right away and it's going to be the perfect solution. And Jason, how do we make sure that we are just, changing that the strategy is evolving or the things that we are implementing are, changing and keeping the pulse of the employees?
Well, I love that you transitioned me on this one because it's the softball. Communication, right? It's definitely communication. And I partner with. Sorry, someone was just walking in, and I still haven't seen it in a week. So I partner with organizations when I do labor relations consulting, often because they have issues where employees look to unionize and they seek a third-party advocate instead of them seeking their employer as their advocate for their employment needs. And one of the biggest things that we preach and we work with companies on with their associates is communication, right? It's making sure that the employees know all the benefits that they're entitled to, where their compensation is, both within the company and within the market expectations. We're all subject matter experts on this phone here today, or through the podcast, and most of the people listening are probably subject matter experts. We know all this stuff, but when we assume that the people that we're doing this for understands everything without recommunicating things over and over again, that's a major pitfall for us. So we have to make sure that we're educating and communicating our associates and our managers who are the ones maybe delivering this or getting questions on this repeatedly throughout the year, not just during open enrollment times, but throughout the year, doing pulse surveys to do check and balances that the employees understand what's going on. But you can't over communicate what the company offers, okay, to its associates. Because just this past week, to Sheila's point, this points where employees can accumulate points to an account based on their benefits usage by living a healthier, lifestyle, utilizing wellness benefits. Employees didn't know that in the company that I'm consulting for, and which is a huge, mind-blowing opportunity because some of those employees were concerned about how much money they make. Well, they didn't realize they can accumulate benefits points that turn into real dollars. So again, communicating these things can easily head off situations where employees are dissatisfied or disengaged within their company. So communication is immensely important, and don't just rely on the communication of what's provided to you by a third party company, a provider that you're doing business with. Make sure that you're customizing your communication into your own company's framework and branding and messaging. Make sure that you're training the trainers. So very, very important. So thanks for the softball. It's definitely communication.
I have to add to that, Jason, just because of what Alyssa's work is focused on, is what an important role the ERGs can play in how that stuff gets communicated. Because my best day at Zoom was the day that somebody asked in a chat group about looking for something, and they were like, "Oh, well, we have this benefit that would help you with that." And it's like, oh my gosh, we have arrived. Like, these people actually, there's a group of people here that understand what we're doing, and they are willing to communicate that to their peers. That's amazing if you can get to that point.
Thank you, Sheila, for saying that.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And one of the things that I think we often forget is that people they don't need you to always agree with them, but they want to be heard. So those employee groups, especially with benefits, it's really interesting. A lot of times they have no idea what's going on, what benefits are available, or what a 401k is. They need that education. The employee group is a beautiful channel to have that knowledge shared. But oftentimes they have real legitimate gripes. They have real legitimate needs, and they just want to be heard and considered, factored in. So again, I think there is this fear that you open a floodgate And that's not the case. It's a way to open that communication channel, as Jason really laid out nicely.
I would like to add something that might shed light on another dimension, if possible. With that, I would like to say that all this flexibility that we have seen in the work has to be very much translated in the flexibility that the organization itself should have. And that is not only how we treat employees, it's also how we do business. Especially more the newest generation, they do care about having a life, not just work. So having a work environment that is complex and sometimes not transparent enough, and perhaps sometimes not very much close to the social welfare, they don't like that. So it's a great opportunity really to revisit how we operate as a company. Moving from traditional hierarchical styles to much more agile and flat organizations, having clarity within the job roles, having specific metrics on how we measure performance. Really, people want to know how they do. People want to know, exactly what is required from them to do. People want to have good relations, and good relations really depend on the job content and the job context. So even if you really give to these people the best, let's say, physical work environment and all the benefits in the world, if the job itself is bothersome to do, and you need really to jump the hoops in order to do your job through a complicated process, it does not work for them. They will just really jump the ship and go somewhere else. So revisiting how we operate is so much important in order to make the work experience really good for our employees. So I've seen a lot of organizations revisiting how they operate, and this has also two sides, because they do that not only in order to improve the employee experience, but also they improve their effectiveness. So by improving their effectiveness, they can much more better address right now the economy being at its worst condition. I would like to say that it is so much important really to go and, as HR, that we now sit at the table and we have a much more systemic role than in the past. We can see how we can strategically affect how we operate as a company.
This is really important, and that's going to take me to a question about mental well-being, because until now we are talking about like all the expectations and remote work and the work itself, but how do these expectations affect the mental well-being of the employees? What are their expectations on that side? Because we have been hearing a lot about the burnout and how things are changing. So what is their expectation? How can we meet their expectation on that well-being, especially on the mental well-being side? Sheila?
Yeah, this is such a great topic, and it's so close to home for me. I have, over the past couple of years, worked a lot with one of my former vendors, talking about how just providing the mental health opportunities for our employees really isn't enough. We've got a responsibility as employers to make sure that we are not causing the stress that is driving people into treatment. Are we properly staffed? Do our managers have good training in how to spot mental health issues and get people to help? Like I said, are we properly staffed? Are our expectations of what people should be doing in their job appropriate? Because I just, in report after report, seeing, some of the top things that are of concern, not necessarily relationship issues, which I think have always been kind of part of the mental health issue, but stress, depression, all of those kinds of things that can easily be driven by the employer. And so we have a responsibility to make sure that we're looking at the source of those mental health issues and trying to correct them if they are definitely living in our house.
Very true. And we should be just like taking that responsibility not to have those people burned out. And that's also on the leadership. And so, Tracy, I would like to ask you how we can make sure that the leadership is also embracing this vision and helping the company culture to have, the mental well-being as a priority when we talk about the benefits that we're providing for our employees.
Yes, I think it's really important. Your direct manager has a greater impact on your mental health and well-being, according to some recent research and studies, than your own doctor or psychologist does. Pretty shocking when you think about that. So I think that organizations have a responsibility, given the amount of challenges that we're seeing with burnout in many industries, but primarily in healthcare industries and retail, where you're dealing with consumers and clients and patients, highly stressful jobs, in many cases, life or death kinds of decisions that need to be made, that managers need to be trained on what to look out for. How do you identify when an employee is having challenges and experiencing burnout, or even before they get to that point? Like, what are some of the signs that might be leading toward burnout? And how can we get ahead of those? And I'm not saying that we teach managers how to be psychologists or how to assess mental health. That's not what I'm saying. But how do we help them recognize the signs in the workplace that could be indicating that this employee may be overwhelmed, stressed out, have too much work on their plate, really starting to get to burnout? You can look at things like hours worked. When was the last time they took time off? Are they using their PTO? How are they interacting with their peers and their colleagues? There's a lot that we can do to really identify when there may be some opportunities to intervene. And I think asking for feedback, sharing feedback, teaching managers and employees how to create environments that have psychological safety and have a culture where asking for feedback and giving feedback is very well embraced, and it's done in a very positive and healthy way. Making sure that managers know when to refer employees to an employee assistance program, or suggest that they might want to reach out to some resources. Making sure managers are well versed on what the employee benefits are at their organization, and training them around how to refer employees and make recommendations. Managers are just as stressed out and overwhelmed and dealing with burnout. So organizations and HR departments really need to think about support for managers and making sure that they're also getting the same types of support that I'm talking about for employees. It's a huge challenge. Many organizations are really struggling with this. I think there are simple things that you can do to try to manage through this. And as I mentioned, they are training managers on identifying the signs, helping them to understand how to ask for feedback, how to give feedback in a healthy, productive way, helping them to know when to offer resources and what those resources are, and providing them with additional support around effective management styles and how to really be more supportive around encouraging time off, taking breaks, using your PTO, looking at the work, as Anna described earlier. I think that that's brilliant, looking at how the work is set up, how the operating model is set up, how are we making decisions, are we including employees in decision making, are we ensuring that they feel empowered, that they have autonomy, that they have a sense of control over their work, that we're not just pushing things down onto them, which again leads to very unhealthy burnout and stress. And how are we looking at jobs, how we're structuring jobs? We have working managers today where managers are managing people, but they're also doing their own job in addition to that. So how are we really thinking about the distribution of work and how we're being much more thoughtful about what we're expecting of our managers and what we're expecting of our employees? Sometimes we need to look at things like AI and technology Can we move non-value added work off the plates of managers and employees if they can focus on the most critical and important work? If they're really focusing on value added work, how do we automate some of the things that are on their plates that are just routine and creating a lot of extra work that leads to stress and burnout?
Amazing, because that takes me to the question of technology. We keep talking about technology, but how can technology help the companies to understand the needs, like even enable more, concrete processes like feedback, or just like, improve any processes to meet the expectations of the employees in a much easier way? Lisa?
I don't know if I drew the short straw today because these questions are big. And my background, I was a chief marketing officer for many tech companies. So I don't want anyone to accuse me of not being tech centered or tech appreciative, I guess. But I don't think it's the answer. I think it can help. I think there are lots of things that can help, but in most cases, they're going to be intrusive and in some cases illegal, particularly in Europe. So I worry about relying on technology in the sense that we are going to assume that that's the answer. I also don't think the managers are always the answer. I think we're asking a lot of any kind of leader to be trained. I mean, all the suggestions have been great, but that's a big ask of most people in general, let alone these people who are running around trying to get their jobs done. So I think part of the solution is teaching people how to self-advocate. I think that's part of it. And are there technologies that can help on that? Yes, there are. I think part of it is helping people to be coaches for each other. And as a coach, the answer there is to help people make good decisions, help them think through the things that are already brewing in their head, but maybe just so stewed up in all the things that are going on that they can't really think straight. I think that's part of it. And again, coaching solutions, there are some technology solutions for that as well. I do think that there are, how should I put it, AI techniques that we can use to identify certain behaviors and patterns for sure. But, again, I'm not the expert in this. Maybe somebody else can comment. How do we get enough people trained so that when they get those signals, those warnings, that there's something that they can do? And, all the HR people that are out there thinking, oh gosh, put something else on my plate, that's not the answer. So I don't know, really, to be honest with you. I'll toss it back to the rest of the group if somebody has a better solution.
Anna,
Yes,
you want to go?
I would like to jump in and save Silicon Valley. So since I'm sitting here, so I would like to say that technology is very much helping out into establishing a process. And so things become a little bit intuitive, easy to do. So no one can have to remember to check in with the employees, because that check-in flag comes on your screen and says, oh, time to check in with Anna. And something else needs to happen. So technology really helps people by weaving in the processes in their everyday life. And that helps a lot for the managers that we have really loaded them with a lot of things to do. By having this kind of, by having a technology helping out with the processes, it's so much important. Also, technology helps into utilizing loads of data that we have in order to translate this data to the strategies that we want to have. So previously, Jason has spoken about surveys, which are so much important. We gather a lot of information about the people and how they feel. How do we utilize this information? Do we really utilize information towards really making the employee experience better? We will do that if we have technology to help us. Business intelligence is also employee intelligence. We really need to utilize that data with the help of technology in order to create the strategies, but also the programs that will increase the employee experience. And in that directions, I believe that technology is a valuable partner.
So we can say that, okay, it's like humans were executing it, but technology is going to help people to
Uh,
just like, make their jobs easier and put the stress off maybe off their shoulders.
And thank you for saying that, because I want to stress very much the importance of people being strategic and analytical in their mind. We don't need much more than these two things happening from the humans, because the other things are happening from the AI.
Exactly. So as we are coming towards the end of our discussion, I would also like to talk about a bit about the training and the skills for our employees, because we always talk about upskilling them, reskilling them. But how do we make sure, being an employer on the employer side, how do we make sure that we are also supporting them with training or other tools or processes so that they are upskilled or reskilled and they are just like, adapting to this new way of working? Jason, you want to go?
Yeah, sure. And everyone's been having fantastic comments. I mean, really, really good stuff. So listeners are getting a huge benefit here. Meaning you're doing a great job facilitating. I think the most important thing when it comes to training, it's an investment, right? It's a company investment, but employees have to notice it as a self-investment. All right. So, it's a two-way street. So, the company is going to benefit from it, and the employee is going to benefit from it. But I think what has to come from it also is, more than not, is each side has to see what that benefit is. What are they going to get out of it? Okay. Or else training is not going to be invested in at all, because it's an expense, right? So the company, we as HR professionals have to be able to sell and be able to, convince our leadership that the investment in training is going to lead to that and benefit on both sides. So one, on the company side, it's going to lead to increased productivity, employee engagement, lower retention, or higher retention, lower turnover. On the employee side, is it going to lead to, again, better job satisfaction, more effectiveness in their job, more pay, higher pay. Like in a healthcare setting, which I've been doing a lot of consulting with lately, they have things called clinical ladders. So as soon as, as someone gets a new certification or they get more experience within it, they move up the ladder, right? From a pay progression standpoint. But then from the company, from the healthcare employer standpoint, the hospital or wherever, they're seeing that employee is more, they can do more for a patient. They have a wider scope of being able to provide a service, and then they become better. The higher likeliness of them being retained is much higher. So same can go across manufacturing and all sectors of the business. So, or all industries, should I mean. So, there's a two-sided benefit to training, but just making sure that there's an understanding of what those benefits are. And that's our job to help convey that. So, training is fantastic as an investment opportunity.
Yeah, and it's really important to just convey this to the employers that that's not going to happen overnight. Like the benefit of training people is not going to happen overnight, but like you said, it's an investment, and it's going to even exponentially grow in the near future.
And sometimes, I hate using the word clawback, but sometimes there has to be a need to, if it's a significant investment, for the employee to know up front that this investment's being made, and there's an expectation for you to be, employed here for a certain amount of time after that investment needs. So again, that would be some certain sort of tuition reimbursement or something maybe, but it depends on the investment level.
Okay, so as we are coming to the end of our discussion, for our audience, how would you recommend an employer to, start and go on, execute, and have those touch points in the employee experience so that they are always listening to and taking action on the employee expectations? Let's do a quick round, Sheila.
Well, I think we've talked a lot about, the answer to this. And so it's really kind of summation. It's utilizing all of your resources, targeted communication, utilizing your ERGs and any other kind of, employee groups, formal or informal, that exist. I know at Zoom we had, not just ERGs that were demographically based, but we also had groups on our chat that were geographically based. And so if you needed to get a message out to the Atlanta team, you had that opportunity to do that. And so that gives you the option to, kind of communicate about local events to your employees. So I think it's just a matter of, using the right communication tool and asking them what they prefer. And that's different for every generation as well. Somebody likes email, somebody likes text, somebody, just doesn't want to hear from you at all. They want to figure it out on their own. But finding out what it is they need in communication and then delivering that to them in a just-in-time manner, I think is probably one of the most important things as far as just that constant communication.
Such a great summary. Thank you. Alyssa?
Yeah, I definitely agree with Sheila, but I also want to add that sometimes they don't know what they need. We're all human like that. And, with a product management background, there's an argument, Silicon Valley and otherwise, that sometimes we have to let innovation tell us what is needed or create things that don't exist today. In that regard, having those conversations, online engagement surveys, in person, all great. I think conferences like this or other opportunities to talk to other companies and see what they're doing. Sometimes you get a really good spark of idea of how to, some kind of benefit or some kind of engagement strategy that other people are doing. And I think we're going to hear a lot more of those in the, not just at this conference, but in the time going forward. It's on the top of everyone's list. So keep your ears and eyes open and continue to share through communities like this.
Amazing. Anna?
Well, it is important. This cross-pollination that Alyssa has just mentioned is so much important. Getting ideas from other people. So being part of groups, ERG groups or other groups really helps. But I would like to emphasize the fact that having the empowerment for the employees to operate is so much important. Having clarity on the work expectations is so much important. And then you can couple these two things with good benefits and good communication. I believe that if you have these 4 elements, you're going to have a good employee experience.
Great. It's like, having everyone on this panel coming together and forming that perfect solution for a company. I wish we had all of these panelists going to a company and taking care of everything so that there's an amazing employee experience in that company. Jason?
I think that's why we're all like consultants here, is because we've done this before many times, and now we just charge a lot of money to do it for other companies. So anyway, it wouldn't be a podcast at Hacking HR if I didn't bring up Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So it's a foundation of human behavior and human expectations that really sums up what employees and humans want and they need throughout their life, both personally and professionally. And if you take that framework of Maslow's hierarchy of needs and bucketize benefits and job security and love and belonging and their employee engagement, and then training and development, and then recognition and rewards, and you bucketize those and you take care of each area of that pyramid, right? That's where you really, have an employer of choice experience for those employees that is fully engaging and satisfactory to what they're looking for. But you have to make sure that you're satisfying each part of that, right? You have to build the correct foundation of security, job security, and the essential needs before you can move up to the pinnacle of the pyramid of self-actualization. So I always talk about that when I'm on these podcasts, because it's really, everything kind of goes back to how the human brain works and what they're really looking for. But the other thing I'll just mention real quick is, the experience with their direct supervisor is huge, right? So that person is a key part of that employee experience. Do they feel engaged with their supervisor? Does that person, as I always say, love your people, they'll love you back, right? Does that person have a genuine care for the people that are working for them. And if they do, they'll get a lot more out of those employees and the people that they are for. And I never look at it as a subordinate relationship. I always look at it as almost like a coworker peer relationship, because we work together, and that's how you again move into the mission and values of the company as one goal, one vision. Thank you for your time today. And great job, everyone.
Very well said. Yeah, very well said. Because, like, people know when you genuinely care about them. They feel it, and it's the only thing that stays with them is that feeling. And so, very well said. Thank you for adding that. And Tracy.
Yes, so absolutely agree with everything that's been said, and it was also very well said. So I'll just add one more thing, so I know we're at the end of time, and that's think about the experiences that we're creating for employees every day in all of their interactions as an employee in our organization, because it's the experiences that they have that shape the beliefs that they hold, and it's the beliefs that they hold that determine what actions they'll take. So it's really all about thinking about that Maslow hierarchy. It's all about the experiences that we're creating for employees and the experiences that we're creating for each other.
It's really great, and I love the idea of Maslow's hierarchy, because sometimes we're always maybe thinking about and talking about the self-actualization when we are not fundamentally providing that survival stage, like not giving enough salaries or making sure that they have enough workload, or even overwhelmed. So it's really great, and I really love how you all brought your own perspectives to this discussion. I really enjoyed our conversation, and thank you everyone for joining us. And for those who will be watching us later, please do reach out to us on LinkedIn if you have any more questions about this topic. And until the next one, take care and enjoy your day. Bye.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.